All right, so where do we begin? The Raptors are the same old Raptors ever since winning that championship, having that championship DNA instilled in them with, players like Kawhi and Danny Green rubbing off on all the players on our team. And then even with their departure, you don't see any fall off from their game. Like they just have this whole new confidence where, no one really scares them anymore. And this is including LeBron James. Um, we had three scrimmages. We really didn't learn a lot about them because the minutes were up and down with certain players. Marc Gasol didn't play in one game. Fred VanVleet kind of bumped knees with somebody, and then he was out for a game or played a few minutes before they took him out. Mainly in the scrimmages. After the second half, they put him the bench. They did go 2-1 in the scrimmages. They beat the Houston Rockets on the first night. I believe that was July 24th. Then they played the Portland Trailblazers, beat them July 26th. And then I believe they played the Phoenix Suns to close out the three scrimmages. And unfortunately, they lost. But, scrimmages, they don't count. They're like preseason games. So, you don't really learn anything from it, like I said. But one thing we can say is that when the NBA restart officially started, the Raptors, they did not lose a step in their game at all. That continuity, that chemistry, it was all there. You could tell from the get-go. The Lakers, they played the Lakers. It was an up-and-down game. It was pretty tight up until 6 minutes into that fourth quarter, or 6 minutes left with that fourth quarter, and they were tied 83-all. I think Kyle Lowry hit a three on one end, and then Anthony Davis responded with a three on his. But before that sequence, I did start to trip a little bit because it felt like LeBron James had that green light ready to go. Every time he sees the Raptors, he somehow finds a way to win the game. But the Raptors aren't the same old Raptors, and, they weathered the storm. LeBron hit back-to-back threes. There was a nice step back he had in the corner against OG Anunoby. And then he hit a pull-up three to put them up 76-72. And that was it. But thankfully, OG Anunoby was able to come to the other end of the court and hit 2 threes to kind of keep the momentum on our side. Because at that point, it did kind of feel like the momentum was shifting. But yeah, the Raptors pulled through. I think they went on like what was it? Probably like a 14, not even 14. It was like a pretty big run. And they ended up blowing them out by 15. I think the final score was 107-92. And Kyle Lowry did Kyle Lowry things. You saw him abusing Kyle Kuzma, him and Pascal both. But Lowry, our offense wasn't clicking that day specifically. And Lowry was able to come through some big plays. Lowry hit some big threes at the end. Pascal had a nice and one. Fred VanVleet hit a big three. And, they pulled through. And then the following game, the Raptors, same thing. They played the Miami Heat. It was a tight game. Both those teams, Lakers and Miami included, they have a really good defense. And the Raptors are obviously better than them on the defensive end. And you could tell. And at the end, the Raptors had every reason to fold in that game when the momentum was shifting towards Miami Heat. But they found a way. Fred VanVleet came out, put on a show, had a career-high 36 points. The offense wasn't clicking for us that day. First night against the Lakers was Lowry. Second night, it was Fred VanVleet. And that's why these 2 point guards we have, they're both dogs. They both have similar games, similar backgrounds. Weren't really scouted as big prospects coming into the league. Obviously, Fred VanVleet went undrafted, but a lot of people regret that now. And he's about to get paid this offseason. And Lowry, he was a late first-rounder. Had his ups and downs with Houston and Memphis. Memphis moved him on over to Houston because they were going with Conley. Clearly, we know how that worked out. And Houston, Goran Dragic was there at the time, and Lowry was the backup. He had a little bit of playoff experience before getting traded to the Raptors, but, Calderon was the leader at that time. Once they shipped out Calderon, Lowry knew it was his team, and his history from there. We all know this has been the best 6-year run in Toronto Raptors history. And yeah, like I said, the Raptors took out Miami. They went 2-0 so far. So far in the season restart. And then, they played Orlando. Jonathan Isaac unfortunately went down with an ACL, a torn ACL. One thing I want to talk about that, I know it's not Raptors info, but like Steve Clifford, the coach for the Orlando Magic, I mean, they were up 20 or 30 points in that game against Sacramento. And he chose to play Jonathan Isaac in the fourth quarter, which made absolutely no sense. And they paid the price because he's one of their best defenders, if not the best defender. And he's an up-and-coming star in this league. They lost him. It kind of reminded me of when Derrick Rose was in the game in a playoff series against the Philadelphia 76ers. And Tom Thibodeau literally left Derrick Rose in the game knowing that the game was already theirs. They already won it. So what was the point of him being there? And then they both had like a similar hop step that led to that ACL being torn. And I don't know. I don't get some of these coaches and how they like to drive their players to the ground. And if he just made that move, because I believe both coaches removed all the other starters but left the main two guys on the team on the floor, and they both paid the price for it. Ultimately ruined Derrick Rose's superstar career. Who would have known? Who knows what would have been of Derrick Rose if he never got injured? I mean, he's basically like Westbrook on steroids. And Westbrook, we know how much of a beast he is. But back to the Raptors. So, yeah, we go to Orlando. We are in Orlando. It's kind of weird because we have a better record than Orlando, but they have the home court if we do play them in the first round or whoever else. Even though it's in the bubble and not actually the Amway Center, it's still kind of home court for them. But unfortunately, another injury came about. Kyle Lowry fouled Aaron Gordon. Aaron Gordon, his leg, he did some type of like high kick and he strained his hamstring. I believe he went out with hamstring tightness and he kept barking at Lowry because he made it seem like it was intentional when it wasn't. He was just trying to stop a dunk from going down. And at that point, they were on a pretty serious run. And Aaron Gordon tried to play through it, but unfortunately it didn't work out. Fred VanVleet was another gem. He had another 20 and 10. 21 points, 10 assists. I believe Lowry was flirting with a triple-double. He had 8 points, 10 assists, and 9 rebounds. Pascal had about 15 points. It was a collective win. They were up 20 at the half, 55-35. And then starting at the third quarter, Orlando kind of went on like a 9-0 run. But, every time we couldn't find a basket, Fred VanVleet was able to kind of pull through and make something happen. And yeah, we were eventually able to pull out the game. And now we're 3-0 in the bubble. And next game, big game, was against the Celtics. Even though we kind of basically secured the second seed, especially with Miami beating Boston the other day and Milwaukee beating Boston on opening night of the NBA restart. This game doesn't have as much emphasis to it or as much pressure for us to win because even if they get this W, which I highly doubt they will, especially with Kemba being not 100%, it doesn't make a difference. I feel like Boston does need this game more because they could fall to 4 and Miami could go up to 3. There's a chance for that, but there is like a 1-game difference between the two of them. My preference of who I'd rather see in the playoffs in a second-round matchup is probably Boston. For some reason, I feel like we match up really well with Boston, and I feel like we can use and abuse the big man on our side. Ibaka and Marc Gasol, they'll cook Daniel Tice and Enes Kanter all day. As long as Gasol is aggressive like he was in this Orlando game, I feel like we could not easily, but it'll be a tough matchup, but I feel like we could pull that out in 7 games. And Pascal, there's no one that could guard Pascal on that team. Put Jaylen Brown, put Jason Tatum, don't matter. He'll cook them all. But with the Miami Heat, though, for some reason, that Bam Adebayo, Jimmy Butler combo, I just feel like those two, they'll be a tougher matchup just for like our main guys, like Pascal especially. Pascal seems to have a little difficulty going up against Bam Adebayo. So if I were to pick between the two teams that I want to see in the second round, I'd rather let Milwaukee deal with Miami in the second round, and I'd rather play Boston. Philly, I don't know if they're going to make it to the second round this season. And if they don't, I think Brett Brown's getting fired 100%. Ben Simmons is out indefinitely. And a first round matchup between Miami and Philly without no home court, I feel like with the amount of shooters that Miami has, with Tyler Hero, Duncan Robinson, even Jimmy Butler at times, Bam Adebayo can hit a three here or there. Myers Leonard, Kelly Olynyk. They have a bunch of big men that can hit threes. But yeah, the Raptors, that championship DNA really is kicking in. Like, you can see a huge difference between how they are now and how they used to be falling under pressure. It's a really, especially with this is kind of blessing in disguise because like in the bubble, there's no distractions. Everyone's kind of together. And the American media is finally getting to see the Raptors on a consistent basis and seeing how good they really are. And finally realizing that this team wasn't just Kawhi Leonard. And I understand that he was the one to take us over the top with those clutch shots against, the Philadelphia 76ers of the world and even the Milwaukees of the world. But Fred VanVleet had a huge thing to do with that whole Milwaukee series too. And I feel like even though Kawhi had to carry them for certain series, I feel like winning that championship really, took the monkey off a lot of their backs. And I feel like the pressure is off, especially with Kyle Lowry. You see a new swagger with how he plays now, like carefree. Like he's so smooth right now. And we all know he's the greatest Raptor of all time. That's why he deserves that picture in the background, him kissing that trophy, because he deserves that. The greatest run was with him on our team. And as much as I wish DeRozan was here to win that championship too, DeRozan just didn't cut it. And Masai knew that Lowry was one of the pieces to the puzzle to go win that championship for Toronto and the country of Canada. But yeah, next game, like I said, Celtics Friday night, and I believe we have Milwaukee on Monday. So we'll see how those games go. Milwaukee more than likely will secure that first seed in the Eastern Conference, maybe even all of the playoffs, which doesn't really matter because no one has home court. Oh yeah, one thing I want to talk about, how do you guys like the virtual fans? And have any of you actually got on the screen? I've seen a bunch of random people on there. I seen Lil Wayne the other day in a Lakers game. I seen Paul Pierce at a Celtics game against Portland. You seen Jason Tatum's son, Deuce. Who else was there? There's a bunch of people that were on there, but I can't think of it off the top of my head right now. But do you feel like that would make a difference in a playoff series, or do you just feel like it's unnecessary? Like, having it there is cool, but it's not the same type of impact that a real crowd would have in real life in an arena with home court. Obviously, Jurassic Park isn't going to be there this year with the whole COVID-19 situation. What else? Oh yeah, and one thing that they wanted to implement into, once the world gets back to normal, is the way when they review calls, they got that little button now where everyone can hear it without having to take off your headphones. I think they might implement that back into the NBA when everything gets back to normal. Obviously, the virtual fans is going to go away once everything's clear with COVID. But yeah, that's going to do it for now. Hope you all enjoyed this video. Sorry for being away for so long. But I made a few videos of me reacting to certain, games. But YouTube just keeps putting copyright after copyright. And it's just very aggravating, very annoying. And I just didn't want to... There's no reason for me to post it up because they just keep taking it off. That's why I wasn't able to post a few videos before the season started. or before the NBA restart began. But yeah, like I said, hope you all enjoyed it. Make sure you subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. If you like this video, if you enjoyed the content here, leave a like. And thank you for your continued support. And we'll be back with more reactions once the Boston game's done. Probably when the Milwaukee game's done. But we'll be back. We'll be back shortly. But thank you to everyone again. Stay woke, stay blessed, and please stay safe. Peace!